It was a bright morning in the city. Expensive cars lined up in front of the Crystal Pearl Hotel, one of the most luxurious places in the country. The staff stood in clean uniforms, greeting guests with wide smiles, but only for the ones who looked important. At around 9:20 a.m., a man walked in through the front door. His clothes were old and dusty, his shoes were torn, barely holding together, his hair was messy, and his face looked tired. He didn't carry a suitcase or wear a watch. He didn't even have a phone in his hand. He walked slowly, with calm eyes and a straight back, like he didn't care how he looked or how others looked at him. The moment he stepped in, the atmosphere changed. One staff member whispered, "Who let him in?" Another giggled quietly and said, "Maybe he's here to beg." The receptionist, a young woman named Tina, rolled her eyes and walked around the counter. "Sir," she said loudly, "this is a 5-star hotel. Our breakfast buffet is not open to the public. Please leave now." The man looked at her, said, "Nothing," and gently pointed toward the elevator. Tina raised an eyebrow. "Are you lost? Or do you think someone here owes you something?" He finally spoke. His voice was soft but clear. "I'd like to meet your CEO." Now Tina laughed out loud. "Our CEO? You must be joking. Do you even know her name?" The man reached into his coat and took out a small folded piece of paper. It was yellow and a little torn at the edges. He handed it to her without saying a word. Tina frowned. "What's this?" "Just give it to her," he said. "She'll understand." Another staff member standing nearby whispered, "Let me take it upstairs, just in case." They both laughed again, but the man didn't react. He just sat down quietly in a chair near the entrance, ignoring the curious stares of guests walking in and out. Some staff passed by and covered their noses, pretending he smelled bad. One even took a picture secretly and texted, "Homeless. Man thinks he owns the place," but not everyone laughed. An older cleaning lady named Rosie walked up to him quietly, holding a bottle of water. "Here," she said kindly. "You look tired." He nodded and accepted it with both hands. "Thank you," Rosie smiled. "No one should be treated like dirt, even if they wear old shoes." Upstairs on the top floor, the CEO sat in her office, reading reports. Her name was Ms. Alina Grayyoung, powerful, and known for turning the hotel into one of the most successful in the country. She was strict, smart, and always busy. Her assistant knocked on the door and stepped in. "Ma'am, someone downstairs gave this for you, says you'll understand." Alina took the paper without much interest, but as soon as she unfolded it, everything changed. Her hands began to shake, her face went pale. There were only 4 words written in blue ink. "I remember the rain." She stood up so quickly her chair rolled back. "Where is he? Who the man who gave you this? Where is he?" "He's in the lobby, ma'am." She grabbed her coat. "Bring him up now, personally, and treat him like a guest of honor." The assistant stood frozen. "Ma'am," Alina turned sharply. "Now?" Downstairs, Tina and the others were still giggling near the counter when the elevator dinged open. The assistant rushed out looking for the man. When she saw him sitting near the window with Rosie, she walked over fast. "Sir," she said breathlessly, "the CEO is waiting for you. Please come with me." Suddenly, the lobby fell silent. Tina's eyes widened. "Wait, what?" The other staff looked confused. Was this some mistake? The man stood up slowly. "Thank you," he said to Rosie, and followed the assistant toward the elevator. Every head turned as he walked past them. He didn't look back, he didn't smile, but in his silence, something felt powerful, like he didn't need to prove anything. As the elevator doors closed, Tina whispered, "Who is he?" No one answered. Upstairs, when the elevator opened, Alina was already waiting at the door. She rushed forward, tears in her eyes. "You came," she whispered. The man gave a small nod. "It took a while." She hugged him tightly. "I thought I'd never see you again." He didn't speak for a moment. Then he looked into her eyes and said, "I came to test your people." Alina's face changed, and they failed. The door to the CEO's office closed behind them with a soft click. Alina stood facing the man, her eyes still wet, her hands trembling slightly. For a moment there were no words between them, just silence, thick with memory. The kind of silence only 2 people who had once shared pain could understand. She walked slowly to the window, looking out over the city skyline. "I used to wonder," she whispered, "if I'd ever see you again. If you were even alive." The man remained standing, calm, unshaken. "I lived," he said, "but I didn't forget." She turned around, her voice soft. "You left without saying goodbye?" "I had no choice." Alina took a deep breath and walked toward him. "Sit, please." He sat, his body slow and careful like someone who had walked a very long road. Alina sat across from him, still trying to believe that the man in front of her, the man with torn shoes and a dusty coat, was him. "Do you remember how we met?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "Rain. Late evening? You were crying behind the library." Alina smiled faintly. "It was the worst day of my life. My father had just died. I was broke, alone. I thought I had no future. And I gave you my umbrella," he said, his voice calm. She laughed softly. "It wasn't just the umbrella. You sat beside me for an hour. You didn't talk much. You didn't ask questions. You just sat. You didn't need words," he replied. "You needed someone to stay." Alina leaned forward, her eyes filled with memory. "And then you disappeared." After that night, no one saw you again. I had to leave the city, he said. My mother was sick. We had nothing. I dropped out of college, worked in factories, on roads. I cleaned windows for 5 years. Alina's face changed. Why didn't you come back? I had nothing to offer you, he answered. And I didn't want your pity. She swallowed hard. It wasn't pity, it was friendship. You saved me. And now, he said slowly, I came to see if your hotel remembered what it means to be human. Alina sat back. They failed, didn't they? They did. He nodded. Except one. An old cleaning lady, Rosie. Alina looked down. She's been here for 10 years. She's always kind, he continued. The rest mocked me, laughed. One of them took a photo. Another called me a beggar. No one asked my name. Alina's voice cracked. I'm sorry. He shook his head. You don't owe me an apology. They do. She was quiet for a while, then finally asked, why now? Why come back after all? These years, the man leaned back in the chair. Because I'm not the same anymore. After my mother died, I got lucky. I met people. I learned. I started a business. It failed. Then I started another. That one grew. I built something. Alina blinked. How big? He looked at her straight in the eyes. Big enough to own 30% of your hotel's shares, she gasped. What? You sold shares 5 years ago, he said quietly, during the expansion. Through an investment group called Lioncore Holdings. That's mine. Alina sat back, stunned. So all this time, I watched from a distance, and I wanted to believe you built something good. She nodded slowly. I tried. I really did. But it only takes one moment to show the truth, he said. They sat in silence again. Outside, the city moved like it always did, fast, blind, busy. But inside that office, the past was alive. Two people once connected by pain were now joined by power, memory, and a hidden truth. He stood up and walked to the window. This hotel looks beautiful from the outside, he said. But what's inside matters more. Alina joined him. So what do you want to do? He turned to her. Call a staff meeting. Everyone, from the front desk to the kitchen. I want them all in one room. She nodded. And after that, he looked down at his torn shoes. Then I'll decide who stays and who goes. Downstairs? Whispers spread fast. He went into her office. Someone said. They didn't send him away. Another asked. Who is he? No idea. But she hugged him. Tina stood near the front desk, her face pale. She had stopped laughing a long time ago. Something deep inside her told her she had made a terrible mistake. Rosie quietly cleaned the glass doors, saying nothing. But inside, she prayed the man wouldn't forget her. An announcement came over the speaker. All hotel staff are required to report to the conference room immediately. One by one, the workers began moving. Chefs, bellboys, drivers, housekeepers, receptionists, all of them, filled the large room in silence. When the man entered with Alina beside him, the room froze. He didn't look like someone powerful, but something about his presence made people sit up straight. Alina took the microphone. Her voice was clear. This man, she began, was insulted in our lobby, disrespected, mocked. She paused, scanning the room. What none of you knew is that he's one of the owners of this hotel. Gasps spread like fire. Tina's hands began to shake. The man stepped forward. I walked in as a guest, he said. Not poor, not rich, just someone seeking kindness. He pointed to Rosie. Only one person offered it. Rosie looked down, tears in her eyes. The man continued. I didn't come here for revenge. I came to remind you, kindness is not something you offer based on clothes or money. He paused, but actions have consequences. The room held its breath. I will meet with each of you tomorrow, one by one. I want to hear your story. I want to see if what I experienced today is who you really are. He turned to leave, but then looked back one last time. Next time someone walks through that door with torn shoes, remember me. And then he was gone. The next morning, the hotel staff arrived earlier than usual. Whispers filled every hallway. No one knew exactly who the man was, but after yesterday, no one doubted his power. Some called him a silent billionaire. Others thought he was a secret hotel inspector. The truth was simple. He was someone who had once been forgotten, and now he was someone they all feared. Tina sat at the front desk, her face pale, her confidence gone. She hadn't slept all night. The memory of how she laughed at the man echoed in her head. Every word, every smirk, every time she called him a beggar, it was all still there. And now, it might cost her everything. In the staff lounge, Rosie sat quietly sipping tea. She didn't say much. She had worked at the hotel for 10 years and had seen all kinds of people come and go, but she never forgot her mother's words. Kindness is free, so give it like it's priceless. That's all she had done yesterday, offered water to a tired man. Nothing more. Yet today, her name was on everyone's lips. At exactly 10 a.m. The CEO, Ms. Alina Gray, walked into the conference hall with a serious look on her face. The man with the torn shoes, now dressed in a neat black coat and clean boots, behind her, his face was calm, silent, but there was power in his eyes. The kind of power that doesn't shout, but still shakes the room. A projector was already set up. Alina stood before the staff. Yesterday, she began, a guest walked into this hotel. He was not wearing expensive clothes. He didn't carry a designer bag. He didn't arrive in a car. And yet, instead of being treated with respect, he was treated with laughter, with judgment. Everyone was silent. She continued, "That guest is sitting right here. And what none of you knew is he was wearing a hidden camera." Gasps filled the room. A few people lowered their heads. Others froze in fear. Alina nodded to her assistant, and the projector screen came to life. The footage began. It showed the man walking through the front doors. His coat looked dusty, his shoes barely holding together. Then came the voices. Who let him in? Maybe he's here to beg. Tina appeared next, on camera, stepping forward with a fake smile that quickly turned to disgust. Her voice echoed loudly in the conference room. "Sir, this is a 5-star hotel. Our breakfast buffet is not open to the public. Please leave now." On screen, the man asked politely if the CEO was available. The laughter that followed in the background made several staff in the room shift uncomfortably in their seats. Then came the worst part. Another staff member secretly took a photo and whispered, "Homeless man thinks he owns the place." The audience watched themselves humiliate. Someone who had done nothing but walk through a door. Tina covered her face with her hands. Her eyes filled with tears. Alina said nothing. The video continued, but then, something changed. Rosie entered the screen, her face kind, her steps gentle. She offered him a bottle of water and spoke kindly. "Here, you look tired." In the footage, the man's voice replied softly, "Thank you." And that was it. Just a few simple words. But the room had already decided who they were, and who he was. The video ended. Silence followed. Alina looked across the room. That was real script, no rehearsal, just your true behavior. The man finally spoke. "I did not come here to expose you, I came to see you. To see who you are when no one is watching." He paused, scanning every face. "Now the whole world is watching." Gasps again. The assistant stepped forward and handed Alina a file. She opened it and said, "This video is already scheduled to be posted on our hotel's official media page." Along with an apology, Tina looked up in panic. "Please don't post that. My parents will see it. I'll lose everything." The man turned toward her. His voice was soft. "You laughed at a stranger who asked for help. You judged me because of my shoes, and you weren't alone. But Rosie," he smiled. Rosie saw a human being. Rosie's eyes welled up. She had never expected to be noticed. She wasn't rich, she wasn't important, but her heart was full. Alina stepped forward. "Rosie, from today, you are promoted to guest experience supervisor. You will train others on how to treat every guest with dignity, rich or poor." The room clapped, some out of respect, others out of guilt. The man looked at Tina and the others who had mocked him. "You won't be fired. Not yet. You will be retrained. You will attend the 3-day empathy and behavior program. And you will serve guests, not just the ones who wear suits, but the ones who wear struggle too." Tina nodded slowly. "Thank you for not giving up on us." He didn't smile, but he said, "Kindness is a choice. You still have time to choose it." Before leaving, he added one more thing. "Tomorrow, I will speak to each of you one by one. I want to know who you are outside this building. Because if this place is going to carry my name, it must carry my values too." And then he walked out. The staff sat in silence. Some looked ashamed, others thoughtful, a few even cried. Rosie stood still, shocked by everything that had happened. But one thing was clear, one small act of kindness had changed her life. And one quiet man had reminded them all of something they had forgotten. Every person who walks through your door is carrying a story, and you don't need rich eyes to see it, just a kind heart. The next day, tension filled the hotel like heavy clouds before a storm. From the kitchen to the rooftop, every employee moved with silent anxiety. The walls that once echoed with laughter and casual conversation now heard only whispers and long, nervous sighs. Inside the large staff meeting room, chairs were arranged in a wide circle. No one sat in the middle. That space was left open like a stage, like a courtroom, or maybe like a mirror. Everyone knew today was not about positions or uniforms. It was about truth. One by one, the staff entered. Tina came in first, holding a file close to her chest, her eyes fixed on the floor. Behind her came Ben from the bell desk, then Carla from room service, Ravi the concierge, Mia from the restaurant, and others. Last to arrive was Rosie, wearing a clean uniform with a small new badge on her shirt, guest experience supervisor. Everyone clapped softly for her when she walked in, but Rosie stayed quiet and humble. She didn't think she had done anything special, just treated a man the way her heart told her to. Then the door opened again. He entered, not in dusty clothes this time, not in torn shoes. Today, he wore a neat black jacket, pressed trousers, and simple leather shoes. Still no watch, no bodyguards, no noise. But his presence made the room sit straighter. He looked around the circle of faces. Some looked at him, directly. Some looked away in shame. Some seemed confused about how to act now. "I'm not here to punish you," he said calmly. "I'm here to listen." He sat in the middle chair. No stage, no table between them, just him at eye level, with everyone else. Then he pointed at Tina. "Let's begin with you." Tina swallowed hard. Her legs felt weak as she walked slowly into the circle. She sat across from him, her hands shaking. He looked into her eyes. Why did you treat me that way? Tina tried to speak, but her throat tightened. She blinked back. Tears. Because I assumed you were no one, she whispered. And I'm so sorry. He didn't nod. He didn't judge. He simply asked, why did you assume that? I don't know, she replied. Maybe because of your shoes or your coat. Maybe because I've been trained to smile only for certain kinds of guests. Double quotes, silence. She added. But that's not an excuse. I was wrong. I saw your clothes, not your face. He leaned back. Tell me about your life, Tina. She looked surprised. My life, yes, outside this hotel when you're not wearing this name tag. Tina paused, then said, I live with my father. He's sick. I work double shifts sometimes. I was angry that morning, tired, but I took it out on you. He nodded slowly. You're not a bad person, Tina, but kindness is not a uniform you wear only when you feel rested. It's a habit. Even when life feels heavy. Tina wiped her face. I'll do better, I promise. He smiled gently. Then this meeting is already worth it. Next came Ravi, the concierge who had whispered jokes behind the desk. He admitted it. I laughed. Because everyone else did. I didn't think for myself, and now? The man asked. Now I feel like a coward, Ravi replied. The man said nothing, just nodded. Sometimes, truth was punishment enough. Then came Mia from the restaurant. I didn't mock you, she said, but I didn't stop anyone either. I just watched. The man asked her, if it were your father in my place, would you still be silent? Mia's lips quivered. No, never. Then ask yourself why it took a camera to make you care. Mia lowered her head. The room was silent. Then he called Rosie. She walked slowly into the center, her eyes soft. You were kind, he said. Why? She shrugged gently. You looked tired. And I know what tired feels like. Tell me. He said my husband died 10 years ago, Rosie shared softly. Left me with 2 kids. I've worked here ever since. Some days I could barely eat. Some days I cried while mopping floors. But I promised myself no one would ever feel invisible around me. Not if I could help it. Tears filled the man's eyes. You didn't know me, but you saw me. You reminded me of my son, she whispered. He wears broken shoes too. He stood up and held her hands. Then your son should be proud, because his mother has the heart of a queen. The room applauded. Not because they were told to, but because they felt it. One by one, the rest of the staff came forward. Some confessed, some cried, some simply apologized, and promised to unlearn what they had become used to. And through it all, the man just listened. When the last person had spoken, he stood once more and looked around. The room you work in a hotel that shines with gold floors and crystal lights, he said, but none of that matters if your hearts are made of stone. The words hit hard. No one blinked. He continued. The guests who walk through your doors may be rich, or broken, loud or silent, dressed in diamonds, or dressed in pain, and you won't always know the difference. But you always have a choice to treat them like humans, or like shadows. He walked slowly toward the door, then turned one last time. You failed yesterday, he said, but failure can be a lesson. If you're brave enough to face it, then he walked out. No music, no dramatic ending. Just a quiet man, leaving behind a louder message. And in that room, something changed. Not because of a camera, not because of fear, but because someone finally reminded them. What makes a person valuable is not what they wear, but how they are treated when no one is watching. 3 days had passed since the staff meeting, but no one had forgotten the man's words. The hotel didn't feel the same anymore. The crystal chandeliers still sparkled. The perfume in the hallways still smelled expensive. The breakfast was still served on fine white plates, but something deeper had shifted something in the people. The laughter was quieter now. The gossip had stopped, and the eyes of the staff held more thought, more caution, and maybe more care. Everyone waited. They waited to know what would happen to them. Would they be fired, replaced, punished? Or would they be given another chance? On Friday morning, a notice went up in the staff room. It was short and clear. Meeting at 11 a.m. Final decision. Mr. Ayan, that was the name the man had finally shared. Ayan. No one had known it before. But now it echoed in every hallway. The poor man with torn shoes? Was Ayan Malika, silent investor, a self-made billionaire, and a man who had walked into their lives like a quiet storm? At exactly 11, every staff member sat in the large conference hall. The CEO, Ms. Alina Gray, stood at the front. She looked calm, but her eyes were serious. Then Ayan entered. He walked slowly to the center, the same way he had done before. But this time, the room didn't hold fear, it held respect, a different kind, earned, not forced. He looked around. I've listened to each of you, he began, and I've made my decision. He paused. The truth is, none of you are bad people, but some of you forgot something important, the difference between service and servitude, between duty and dignity. He turned to Tina, who sat quietly. In the front row, you judged me by my shoes. You laughed at my coat, but you also apologized, and I believe people can change. Tina's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, sir. You will stay, he said. But you will train under Rosie. You will learn what kindness sounds like. Tina nodded, her head low. Yes, sir. Then Ion looked at Ravi. You followed others, laughed when others laughed, but when you stood in front of me, you told the truth. Ravi's voice cracked. I'm ashamed of it. Good, Ion said. Shame is the start of change. You'll stay, but you'll spend your next week cleaning floors. Not as punishment, but to learn what respect feels like from the ground up. Ravi nodded. I understand. Then came Carla, who had said nothing during the whole incident but hadn't spoken against it either. You watched wrong happen, Ion said, and said nothing. I was scared, she replied quietly. I understand fear, he said, but silence can cause as much damage as hate. He took a breath. You'll stay. But starting today, you'll work with our human resources team to build a new kindness policy. Speak now, so others can be safe tomorrow. Carla looked shocked, but nodded. I'll do it, I promise. Then Ion turned toward Rosie. Rosie, he said, smiling warmly, you changed this entire hotel with one small bottle of water. Rosie looked down. It was nothing. It was everything, he said. Your heart is what this place was missing. He reached into his coat pocket and handed her a small white envelope. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a deed, house in her name, fully paid. Rosie broke into tears. Sir, I don't know what to say. Ion touched her shoulder. Just stay the same. That's all I ask. The room clapped not out of habit, but from their hearts. Even those who once rolled their eyes at Rosie now saw her with new respect. Then came the moment everyone feared. Ayan looked at 3 staff members who had never apologized, who still carried pride in their eyes, who had been warned but never admitted their mistake. You 3, he said calmly, will not continue at this hotel. They sat up straight, eyes wide. But sir, one tried to argue. No, he said firmly. This is not revenge. It's responsibility. If you cannot see value in people, you cannot serve them. The silence was heavy, but no one objected. Then, Ion turned to the entire room. I don't want this hotel to shine with gold and hide hearts made of stone. From today, things will change. He held up a document. This is the second look policy. Every guest, no matter what they wear, or how they look, will be treated with respect. No one will be judged at the door. And if they are, the person responsible will be the one shown that door instead. The staff nodded. This policy will carry my name, he said, because I want every person who walks through that door to know this place was built by someone who once walked in with torn shoes. Alina stepped forward, proud, and from this day she announced, Ion Malik will not just be a silent investor. He will be our official co-chairman. His values will shape everything we do. More applause. Ion smiled gently. I didn't come to punish, he said. I came to remind you. He paused. People remember how you made them feel. Not the towels, not the wine list, not the chandelier in the lobby. Just how you made them feel. And that was it. He didn't make a dramatic exit. He walked out quietly, like he had walked in, calm, silent, with no need to raise his voice. But the message was loud. And in that hotel, things would never be the same again. The new week brought a new air inside the Crystal Pearl Hotel, but it wasn't the smell of fresh flowers or polished marble floors. It was the quiet presence of something stronger. Change. Gone were the arrogant whispers. Gone were the eyes that looked guests up and down. And in their place, there was something else. Uncertainty, yes, but also effort. Quiet effort to do better. Ion Malik had not returned since the staff meeting. He didn't need to. His voice still echoed through every hallway. His story was now part of the building itself. At 9 a.m. sharp, all staff reported to the basement training hall. A large banner hung across the front. Humility Training Day 1. Walk in their shoes. Tina, Ravi, Carla, and 6 other staff members stood in line. They had been assigned roles for the next 3 days, roles far below their usual jobs. No desks, no front counters, no clean suits. This week, they would live the lives they once ignored. Tina was given a mop and bucket. She would clean the floors starting from the bathrooms. Ravi was assigned to work in the kitchen cutting vegetables. Washing dishes, Carla would stand near the guest entrance and help carry luggage. And Rosie, quiet Rosie, was their guide. Not to punish them, but to show them how to work with grace, not ego. Their name tags were removed. Their titles were gone. For the first time, they were just people doing honest work. At first, no one spoke much. The pride was still there, quiet, but alive. Tina struggled with the mop. Her hands were soft, unused to hard work. Her back hurt within the first hour. The strong scent of cleaning fluid made her eyes sting. She had once mocked staff for leaving water on the marble floor. Now she was the one slipping on it. By noon, her shirt was soaked with sweat. She sat on the edge of a bucket, breathing hard. Rosie passed by and handed her a clean towel. Tina looked up, ashamed. I never realized how hard this is, she whispered. Rosie smiled. It's not just about cleaning floors. It's about seeing the people who do. In the kitchen, was surrounded by heat, noise, and orders. More onions, less salt, move faster. He cut his finger twice, dropped a tray of spoons. A senior chef scolded him. Don't just stand there. Wipe the counter. Ravi, who once stood proudly behind the concierge desk in a 3-piece suit, now stood beside a sink full of dirty dishes. His hands smelled of garlic and soap. His feet ached from standing too long. He looked across the kitchen and saw an old cook moving quickly, quietly, with practiced hands. "How long have you worked here?" Ravi asked him. The man smiled. 14 years. Ravi looked down. "I've never said hello to you. Not once." The man shrugged. "Most people don't." Ravi wiped his hands. "I will now, every day." Carla, outside, stood in the sun holding luggage. Guests walked by without noticing her. One woman spoke sharply. "Don't drop it. That bag is worth more than your job." Carla's face flushed red. For a second, her pride almost rose. She wanted to answer back, but then she remembered Ian's words. If you cannot see value in people, you cannot serve them. She took a deep breath, nodded, and smiled. "Yes, ma'am. I'll take good care of it." By evening, each of them was silent. Not because they had nothing to say, but because they were listening now, not talking. Listening to the sound of the work they had once looked down upon. Listening to the voice inside that said, "I can do better." That night, Rosie sat them down. For a short group talk, she asked only one question. "What did you learn today?" Tina spoke first. "That dignity has no dress code." Ravi said, "That hard work is loud, but dignity is quiet." Carla added, "That respect must go both ways." Rosie nodded. "Then you're ready for day 2. Day 2, voice of the guest. On the second day, each of them was assigned a guest to assist without being noticed. They had to watch, listen, learn what guests feel, fear, and need. Tina followed a single mother with 2 kids. She watched the woman struggle to carry bags, hold the baby, and check in all while trying to keep calm. No one helped her. Tina stepped in gently. "Would you like a hand?" The mother looked shocked. "Yes, please." That simple moment touched Tina. She's not rich, she thought, but she's trying, and she deserves kindness too. Ravi shadowed. A blind guest. He watched how the guest used his cane to feel his way. No one offered help. Ravi guided him silently through the restaurant, reading the menu out loud. When the man said, "Thank you, young man. Most people ignore me," eyes burned. Carla sat beside an old man in the lobby, waiting for his son to pick him up. He spoke about his past, his memories, his love for his wife who had passed. Carla listened quietly for 40 minutes. Not because it was her job, but because it felt right. At the end, the man held her hand. "Thank you for reminding me. I still matter." And that was the lesson. 2. Make someone feel they matter. Day 3, reflection on the final day. They stood in the lobby once again, not as servers, not as cleaners, but as people. Change. Ayan arrived without announcement. He walked in like any guest, simple, quiet, unnoticed. But this time, the staff didn't need to be told who he was. They rushed forward not to impress him, but to greet him, with respect, with gratitude, with genuine smiles. Tina walked up and offered a glass of water. Ravi stepped aside to open the door. Carla bowed gently and said, "Welcome back, Mr. Malik." He nodded. "You look different." "We feel different," Tina said. "You've all done well," he said. "And now, I'll give you the greatest reward." They looked at him, curious. "You will never forget these 3 days. You will treat every guest as if they wear your father's shoes, or your child's coat. And from now on, you won't serve from your job. You'll serve from your heart." They nodded, slowly, deeply. Because now they understood. Humility isn't weakness, it's strength in silence. And respect doesn't rise from uniforms, it rises from the soul. It had been 1 week since Ayan's silent test changed the heart of the Crystal Pearl Hotel. The staff had grown more thoughtful. Their greetings felt more real. Rosie now walked through the halls, not as a forgotten cleaner, but as a respected leader. Even guests had begun to notice a difference. Some smiled back, some left thank you notes. Some returned not for the luxury but for the warmth. Ian had watched from a distance. Not in suits, not in meetings, just quietly. He would sometimes visit dressed as a guest, sometimes as himself. He didn't say much. He didn't want to be treated like a king. He only wanted to see if the change was real, or temporary. It was on a rainy evening that something unexpected arrived. A small envelope, no stamp, no address. Just his name on the front. Mr. Ian Malik, delivered by hand. The receptionist who received it said a boy had dropped it off. About 14 years old. He didn't give a name. Just said, "It's important." Ian sat alone in the corner of the empty restaurant when he opened the letter. The paper was old, slightly yellow, folded carefully. The handwriting was neat but full of emotion. Ayan, "You don't know me, but I know who you are. I've been looking for you for years. My mother told me about you. She said you were kind, quiet, poor, once, but powerful in the heart. She said you helped her once when no one else would. She said you gave her your food and walked home hungry. She said you disappeared after that, but never from her memory. She told me your name the night before she died. She said, if you ever meet Ian, tell him he saved my life. I don't know what to say, sir. I just wanted you to know that your kindness reached me through her. I hope you're still the same, and I hope I made her proud." Ian held the letter in shaking hands. He had no memory of the name Zion, but the moment he read she said you gave her your food and walked home hungry. A storm opened inside him. It was more than 15 years ago. He was 19. His mother was dying. He worked 3 jobs, walked miles each day, ate only once, sometimes not at all. That winter was the hardest of his life. One night, while walking home with a half-eaten piece of bread, he passed a bus stop and saw a young woman sitting on the bench, crying. She looked lost, cold, her clothes thin, her hands shaking. She didn't ask for anything, but he sat next to her, gave her the bread, and left without saying his name. He never saw her again. Could it be her? Was Zion her son? He read the letter again. She told me your name the night before she died. Ion closed his eyes. He had spent years building companies, investing in properties, making silent decisions behind glass doors. But nothing he ever built felt as powerful as that one line. You saved my life. The restaurant felt colder suddenly. He stood up and walked outside into the rain, letting the water soak his shirt. He looked around. At the cars, at the people walking under umbrellas, at the city that once ignored him. A memory came back. A little boy in torn shoes, a dusty coat, holding his mother's hand and smiling through hunger. That boy could have been Zion. And now? That boy had grown up, and written to him. Ayan returned inside and called for Rosie. She came immediately, wiping her hands. I need your help, he said. Of course, she replied. Do you remember a young boy who delivered a letter today? She nodded. Yes, sir. I saw him leave. He looked like he didn't belong here, but he was polite, quiet. Did anyone speak to him? The gate guard might have. Ion and Rosie walked quickly to the guard station. The old security guard Salim stood under the rain shade, sipping tea. Salim, Ion said. The boy who came earlier, did he say where he was going? Salim thought for a moment. He said he was going back to the old flats behind the railway tracks. Block B, that's all. Thank you, Ion said. Without another word, he called his driver. I'm going myself, he told Rosie. She tried to stop him. It's late, sir, and it's raining. But Ion simply said, some doors you don't knock on twice. 30 minutes later, Ion stood in front of a broken apartment building in Block B. The hallway smelled of rust and wet clothes. Kids played with sticks outside. A woman watched him suspiciously from a window. He showed the letter to a boy nearby. Do you know him? The boy nodded. Zion. Yeah, he lives upstairs. With his uncle. Ion climbed the narrow stairs and reached a door that looked like it hadn't been painted in years. He knocked. The door opened slowly. A teenage boy with sharp eyes and a thin frame stood inside. It was him. Zadin for a moment. Both just looked at each other. I'm Ion, the man said. I know, Zion whispered. I wasn't sure if the letter would reach you. It did. Zion stepped back. Come in. The room was small. A cracked mirror, a wooden bed, a photo of a woman on the shelf. She was smiling, but her eyes looked tired. That's my mother, Zion said. Her name was Mahor. Ion sat down, his voice soft. She was kind. I remember her. She talked about you. Zion said. A lot. Especially when she was sick. She said one kind act from you gave her hope. Ion's throat tightened. And what do you want from me, Zion? Zion shook his head. Nothing, sir. I just wanted you to know. You mattered. Even when you had nothing. Ion looked at him, at the thin boy, standing strong in a broken room. You remind me of myself, Ion said. Zayan smiled. Then maybe there's hope for me too. Ion reached into his pocket and pulled out a card. Come to the hotel. Tomorrow, he said. I have a job for you. Zion stared at the card. Why? Because someone once gave me a chance, Ion said. Now it's my turn. Zion nodded slowly. I won't waste it. And in that moment, 2 lives. Touched again, not through business or money, but through something far greater. Kindness. Passed down like a gift. From one heart to the next. It was Sunday morning. The sun rose slowly over the city, washing the streets with soft gold. The Crystal Pearl Hotel stood tall as ever, its glass doors gleaming, its lobby spotless. But something inside the building felt different today. The staff moved with a sense of quiet anticipation, like they were waiting for something, or someone. Rosie, now wearing her cleanest uniform and a brighter smile, stood by the front desk. Tina had polished the reception area 3 times already. Ravi, holding a fresh towel for guests, kept glancing at the door every 2 minutes. They were all thinking the same thing. Would he come today? Just after 10 a.m., a car pulled up outside. Ion Malik stepped out first, dressed simply in his usual black coat and shoes, not expensive, but clean. He held the door open, and a teenage boy followed behind him. Zayan. The boy wore borrowed shoes, a second-hand shirt, and wide, nervous eyes. He had never entered a place like this before. The floor felt too smooth beneath his feet, the air too cold, the walls too silent, but he stood tall. When they entered, Rosie smiled and said warmly, Welcome, Zion. The boy looked surprised. You know my name. Ravi stepped forward. We all do. Tina handed him a name badge. It was simple, silver and clean. Zayan. Junior guest assistant Sian held the badge like it was made of gold. Ayan placed a hand on his shoulder. This is your new beginning. Not because of luck, but because of legacy. Zion swallowed hard and nodded. I won't forget. I know, Ion said. He turned to the staff gathered nearby. Today is not just his first day, Ion said. It is also your final lesson, a quiet one. They followed him into the conference room, where he had asked for no chairs. Just a carpet on the floor, and a small table with one item on it, a pair of torn shoes. The very same shoes he had worn on his first visit, worn cracked, the soles nearly broken. He stood beside them and spoke softly. These were mine. I wore to them into this building when no one knew me, when most people laughed, and when only one person saw me as a human being. Everyone looked at Rosie. She smiled quietly. Ion continued, these shoes remind me where I came from, and they will stay here, at the door, from this day forward, not as decoration, not as art, but as a reminder. He looked around the room, into every eye. When you come to work tired, and your heart feels small, look at them. When a guest walks in with dirty clothes, and you're tempted to judge, look at them. When you feel proud because you wear a shiny name tag, look at them. He paused. These shoes will say what I no longer need to. You were once here to. The room was silent. Some eyes filled with tears. Then Ion looked at each staff member one last time. Tina, you've learned that kindness is not for sale. It must be grown from the inside. Tina nodded. And I'll never forget that, Ravi. You've found your voice. Use it now, to speak truth, even when it's hard. Yes, sir. Carla, you listened. You changed. Keep your ears open, not just 2 words, but 2 hearts. I will. Then he turned to Rosie. You gave when no one was watching. You led without shouting. You made this place beautiful because your heart was. Rosie lowered her head. Thank you, sir. But it was all you. No, Ion said. It was all of us. Just. Finally waking up. Then he turned to Zion. This is your story now. You don't have to run to be seen. Just walk, steady, and let your work speak. Zion looked at everyone and smiled. I'm ready. And with that, the meeting ended. But something new had begun. Weeks passed. Zion learned quickly. He listened more than he spoke. Guests liked him, staff respected him, and slowly, his nervousness turned into quiet confidence. Every morning, before starting his shift, he'd stop by the small table at the lobby entrance. He'd look at the old shoes. Sometimes he'd smile. Sometimes he'd pause. Once Rosie caught him whispering, "Thank you, Mama. He found me." And one day, he placed a small item beside the shoes. A second pair. His old sandals. They were small, faded, the straps worn thin, but beside Ion's shoes, they looked right. One said, I came. In silence, the other said, and I was heard. On the hotel's 10-year anniversary, Alina held a press conference. Cameras flashed. Journalists filled the room. She stepped to the mic and smiled. Many people ask me the secret of this hotel's success, she said, and I say it's not the food, not the gold walls, not the 5 stars. It's 2 pairs of shoes at the door, one worn by a forgotten man, the other worn by a hopeful boy, and in between those shoes is a story, a lesson, and a legacy. The crowd clapped. Ayan didn't stand at the front. He stood at the back watching, as always. In silence, because he didn't need to speak anymore. The people, the hotel, the kindness now living in its walls, spoke louder than words ever could.